Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday night at the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi, and it's the final race of the year. We faced 17 out of 17 in this strange year of COVID-19 where we were meant to start in March, didn't in fact start until Austria in the beginning of July, first weekend of July, and we've squeezed 17 races in between then and now. And well, we're all ready for a good race tomorrow. The tyre marks are ready here. As we see, people have been warming up their tyres, preparing for their practice starts. The last corner is ready. The medical team doing a sort of dance are ready over here. Not sure if this is for TikTok or some sort of social media thing, or maybe this is just the way they do to sort of end up their day. A little sort of chill out, maybe. The medical staff here at the medical centre, who happily haven't been needed so far this weekend. But it's been an interesting weekend because normally we get to Yas Marina and it's absolutely chocker. It's full of fans, full of expat fans from people who live in the Emirates, people who live in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, and from around the region. Loads of local fans, of course. And then lots of people come in from Australia because it's only one plane ride from Australia over here. It's a long plane ride, but one plane ride over here. And people from around the world, and there's usually a buzzing atmosphere. And the weirdest thing is, woo, well done everybody, woo, good job. Quick, get that loaded up to the social media or whatever. And it's a great atmosphere and it's all buzzing. And now it's completely empty. It's totally empty. I mean, weirdly empty because we're in a biosphere. And if you're wondering why we're all wearing these green wristbands, this is how you know if you haven't got it and if you're clear for the biosphere. So the whole of Yas Island, with the 5 hotels on the island, the Park Inn, the Crown Plaza, go around the Rotana, whatever, they are all being used by all the teams, all the media, all the marshals, and all the people who work in those hotels are in one of those hotels. And then it's completely cut off from the rest of Abu Dhabi, except for, you know, food deliveries and essentials. All the marshals are staying on the island somewhere or somewhere close by. And all the drivers, most of the drivers are staying in the W Hotel, the Yas Marina Hotel, the one on the other side of the pit building. So we're all closed off. And if you need to go anywhere, then you need to be wearing one of these green wristbands. They won't even serve you in the hotel with anything. They won't allow you out without one of the green wristbands. And the way it worked was we all came over. So it's been really weird. Since we left Bahrain, so we all had to report to Bahrain Airport on the Monday after Bahrain, and sort of go-to travel agency of Formula One, Travel Places. What they did was organise, who was it? It was 10 flights. They started at 10 a.m. and they finished at 8 p.m. in Bahrain Airport, and they found a sort of separate departure lounge, which was this was all because of COVID restrictions and making sure that we didn't have to, you know, mix with the other people who were flying, you know, from Bahrain to around the Arabian Peninsula and to elsewhere, who hadn't been as tested as much as everybody in F1 had been. So we went to a sort of separate little terminal where we checked in, got our bags, put our bags in, passports checked and stamped, security, and then up to a dedicated couple of gates at Bahrain Airport. This is before the new terminal at Bahrain opens, by the way. And then Travel Places had arranged lots of Etihad planes, who are the sponsor, as you probably have seen, of this race. So Etihad is the national airline of Abu Dhabi. And there were 2 Boeing 787s, which were pretty, well, they weren't pretty full, but I'll get onto that in a second. 3 Airbus A321s, so we were on one of them, and 5 Airbus A320s. There were nearly 1,300 passengers, 1,294 passengers. And the reason why I had to have so many planes for that, if you think about it, a 787 can carry, you know, 400 people, so it wouldn't have taken 10 of them, was because everybody had to be socially distanced and distanced within their bubbles. So on our plane, Renault was in one section, and there were sort of 2 or 3 seat rows space, and then there was us, Sky Sports F1, and then there was, who else was on our flight, JD? Was McLaren on there? And then there was another space, and then there was Williams, if you see what I mean. So all of these planes would have been socially distanced and bubbles, and they did that thing on planes, if you've ever taken a flight in COVID now, that you can't get off, you have to get on in a group, and then you can't get off all together. So when you land, there's none of that, oh, let's get up quickly and get your bags out. Everyone has to stay where you are, and then the first group gets off, pause, second group gets off, pause. You see what I mean? If you've flown between any time between April and now, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it was brilliantly organised, you know, by Helen Cox and Nick Warren and their whole team at Travel Places. Then this is one of the travel to the charter flights that they've done for us throughout the season. And they've all been like this, if they have to been. So it has been well organised, it has been pretty odd. And once we got here, we got to the hotel, we were tested at Abu Dhabi Airport in one of the just by a travelator. It's a section of the airport just by a travelator. It was before we even went into passport control. So we tested there, and then we had to, when we got to the hotel, we had to go to our rooms. We couldn't eat in a restaurant. We had to stay in our rooms until we got the results. So we got to the hotel about 3 p.m. Got the results around 9 p.m. but then couldn't come out of our hotel rooms until 8 a.m. the next morning. And that's when they gave us the green wristbands, and that's when we could actually go about our day. So these were all national restrictions. And if any marshal, the national restrictions here in Abu Dhabi are so tight, if any marshals have come in from Dubai, they've had to isolate for 14 days, just coming across the motorway from one of the other Emirates here in the same country. It's like coming from Wales to England, see what I mean, or Scotland to Wales. Although if you go from Scotland to Wales, you'd have to go through England, wouldn't you? Stupid thing to say. But they've had to isolate for 14 days, just coming in from Dubai, before they can come and work here. And then, of course, they can go back to Dubai. And anyone who's come here from anywhere else, like Australia or anywhere else, or Thailand, or they then have to go and they have to spend Christmas. Plenty of F1 personnel who come from those parts. They have to spend Christmas 14 days in a hotel room isolating before they can go about their business. So when you understand that with Christmas around the corner, you know, the sacrifices that a lot of people are making is really, really significant, and just gives you some idea what it's been like. But in any case, we're meant to be going, well, at the moment we're going back on an Etihad 787-10. That's the long version, the stretched version of the Boeing 787. When we got to Abu Dhabi Airport, we saw all of their planes, all the Etihad planes, all the Air 380s parked on a sort of taxiway. It's very sad just to see all of that, but it seems like a lot of the UK teams, a lot of the UK media are going back on one of the Etihad 787s, the big one. Right, we can see the podium just being tested, and we can talk about everybody's qualifying, because that's what it's been like out here. But it's all been very well organised. It's just been a bit soulless without all the crowds here that we normally have. But inshallah, they will be back next year. The crowds will be back, and you can come to your favourite races throughout the world. Well, who will it be? Will it be Max Verstappen standing at the top of that podium with Valtteri Bottas alongside him and Lewis Hamilton? Well, they've been the class of the field this year, haven't they? Those three, in no particular, well, in championship order: Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen. But it was Max Verstappen who nicked pole position from the Mercedes duo today, spoiling the Mercedes record of having Mercedes power on pole for every race this season. Of course, the one race that they weren't on pole was with Lance Stroll, where Lance Stroll was on pole. Of course, he's got Mercedes-Benz engine in the back of that Racing Point. So that's a big breakthrough for Red Bull, and a bit of a blow for Mercedes, and a strange day for Mercedes. They got first of all, they get beaten by Max Verstappen for as I say, the first non-Merc pole of the year. Secondly, that was weird, with Toto encouraging Valtteri Bottas on the radio. Never happened before. I've never heard it. Toto said he's never done it before, but he thought it was time after they'd had a chat, after Bottas was kind of beaten pretty soundly by George Russell at the last race, Bahrain 2. They had a chat, and Bottas said, "Oh, this is nice, Toto. We should have more of these chats." Toto took it upon himself to sort of give him a G up on the radio before Valtteri's final attempt, saying, "All you have, Valtteri." So I don't know, if it was me, that would have put me off, thinking, "Oh no, the boss has just giving me, oh, don't, I've got enough pressure on me, Toto, without you giving me a radio call saying, go on, give it all you have. What do you think I'm doing? But anyway, it didn't, because he out-qualified his teammate, Valtteri Bottas did. A half a tenth off, I think it is. Bottas was quicker than Lewis Hamilton. So Bottas delivered-ish, but then got beaten by Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton coming back from COVID-19 and lost it all in the last sector, just by a tenth. I think it's half a tenth he's off. He lost a tenth in the last sector, but all through all three sectors, he's only half a tenth off. Bottas is Hamilton. And I thought it was significant where Lewis Hamilton's saying, I'm not feeling the usual me, sort of hinting that he's not feeling 100%. I don't suppose any of us should be surprised. He's had COVID, and it wasn't asymptomatic case. He had it and was ill, but he's clearly looking much better. Well, I say he's looking much better. He's looking fine, to be honest. When you see him, you can't tell much with the mask. He seems fine. He's not, doesn't show any outside signs of not looking well. But he said himself that it's not the usual me this weekend. Doesn't matter, of course. He's won the World Championship some time ago. But there's no Angela. If you're wondering where Angela Cullen is, his ever-present physiotherapist and Roscoe carer, she is still in quarantine. She's still in isolation in Bahrain, we understand. So she's not able to come here to Abu Dhabi with Lewis. I'm sure he's missing his confidant and his physio, Angela, as well. Right, done 11 minutes. I've only done one team, so good work, as usual. What's this? 50 years of the ADNOC. It is, and that's the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Well, I thought they'd been going for more than 50 years, but no, apparently not. 1971 to 2021. There is Craig Slater over yonder, just gearing up for a piste camera. Unfortunately, his cameraman's just decided, Simon's just decided to bend down. He obviously doesn't know you're there, JD. You're going to surprise both of them. Well, I tell you about Ferrari, and it's not great for, we're behind you. We're behind you, Simon and Craig. Oh, there you are. Oh, hello. Embarrassing. It's 13th for Sebastian Vettel, so not great. Gave it everything, he said. It was the copy and paste of Q1 in Q2, but it was absolutely no better. And it is the engine that he's running, this is interesting, is the engine that they took out at the beginning of the Saturday in Bahrain 2, when they were changing it as a precaution. So it's not the old tired engine with which that Seb had to do the race in Bahrain 2. It's the one that they took out as a precaution. Actually, it was a precaution. It's just as well they took it out because they stopped any damage happening to it, and it's okay. So that's the power unit that Seb's running this weekend. But brilliant again from Charles Leclerc, using the medium tyre through to Q2, but suddenly he was slow in Q3, a little bit confused. He said, we lost time throughout the session, the Q3 session, and that was really weird, said Leclerc. He wasn't particularly happy at the end. He'll be even more unhappy when he remembers that he's got a 3-place drop for clattering into Max Verstappen in Bahrain 2 on the first lap of the race. So that will put him, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th? 12th on the grid, and it will move the likes of Ricciardo and Ocon up a place, and Gasly. But yeah, that's not great for Charles. Well, it was good for Charles Leclerc, but he'll be dropped out of the top 10. They're all doing lots of grazie Sebs this weekend. Seb's got a fantastic tribute crash helmet saying grazie, ragazzi, which is guys in Italian, Italia, tifosi, and all of these words sort of join up on the top of his crash helmet. It's a lovely item. And the auction for his rainbow crash helmet is still online. I did look at it the other day, but it's gone up to like 100 grand or more than 100 grand. So while that's raising great money for some children's charities throughout the world, it is rather out of the spending for most of us. But yeah, I thought, oh, I might bid, a couple of grand, maybe I'll see where we are. And it was like 120 grand or something. Whoa, okay. But that's good. Great for Seb. He's going to raise a lot of money. Right, Red Bull, and they have got pole position today. Brilliant. It was Max had a weird start to qualifying, actually. Got a flat spot coming out of the pits because he had to brake sharply to avoid going into Nicholas Latifi after the Canadians crew chief, his mechanic, had let him out in front of the Red Bull. This happens all the time. It's a game that the lower teams down the pit lane play with the bigger teams to kind of annoy them. Well, it's not to annoy them, but just to get ahead of them. You know, he had to brake sharply and felt he got a flat spot tyre. It is under investigation for unsafe release on the Williams crew, but we'll see what happens. I don't think they can really penalise him too harshly because it does happen all the time. But he got well into Q3, and then an amazing lap, a 135.24 to Bottas's 135.27. So just very close, 300ths of a second in it. And great G-up, great to make good after the disappointment of Bahrain 2. And Alex Albon, okay really, with a 35.5. So a few tenths, couple of tenths. 3 tenths off Max Verstappen. But Alex Albon let Lando Norris in ahead of them by a tenth of a second to claim P4, which might turn out to be a little bit annoying for Red Bull, but it was really good for McLaren because that is great. And Lando Norris wins 8-9, the qualifying battle between him and Carlos Sainz. There is a difference in engines. Carlos Sainz does have an older engine power unit in his car. It's worth a couple of tenths at least, and that is the difference, as well as a mistake by Carlos Sainz on his last at the chicane, which sort of snowballed and he carried throughout the rest of the lap. So I think, last lap Lando returns, having been outpaced by Sainz throughout qualifying 3. He really delivered at the end and nicking a couple of places from his Spanish teammate by 3 tenths from Sainz, albeit with that fresher engine, but not doing over Lando's ability at all, which was ace today. But Sainz missing out a little bit with a mistake and with an older engine. It is the end, this was being the last race with Renault power at the back of the McLaren, of Scenario 7. So all of you who loved Scenario 7, which is of course the full beans engine mode on that McLaren, this is it, last time it will be used. If we're honest with each other, it hasn't been used since Monza, since they changed the, you can't mess around with engine modes in the race. Kind of spoils the story. Anyway, last race was Scenario 7. They haven't used it since Monza. All right, good. And they'll go with, they'll go with Strat 2, won't they, next year? Strat 2, which is the full beans Mercedes engine mode, as they go to Mercedes engines next season. Right, Renault, bit disappointed. What happened there then? Daniel Ricciardo 12th, Esteban Ocon 11th. And it seemed that where they had the pace in free practice 3 when it was a bit of a hotter track and it was nice and light outside, when it got dark, they weren't happy. It's just qualifying, said Daniel Ricciardo, but he was clearly not happy because that's first time in the dry he's been outpaced by a teammate, or has been outpaced by Esteban Ocon this season. So Ocon out-qualifies Ricciardo. Ocon, he said he just had poor grip on the last run, particularly at the rear, but we have a chance tomorrow. Don't give up, he said. We have a chance tomorrow, said Esteban Ocon. They can do some stuff in the race. Ocon's clearly taken a step forward in the last couple of races. And with Fernando Alonso coming to the team, you'll argue that he needs to. But in any case, Alonso really has been making his presence known, not only in the R25, which we'll have a great feature about with Martin Brundle and the Fonz and Nando in tomorrow's race show beginning at 11:30, but also around the place. You can feel the Alonso influence starting to make itself known, whereas Daniel Ricciardo starts sort of edging towards the the McLaren garage next door. But what else? Cyril a beat bull because of the very harsh COVID restrictions I was talking about earlier. Hasn't been allowed into the paddock until he does 48 hours in his hotel room isolation. So he is only just going to turn up this evening, Saturday evening. Actually wasn't in his place in the garage during qualifying, I believe. But he's all right. He'll be coming in. But it's the last weekend of Renault. This will go, this yellow and black routine next year, and I assume it will be blue and white, the colours of Alpine, Renault's racy brand, sort of like AMG for Mercedes, if you know what I mean. So that's last weekend for the Renault F1 brand. AlphaTauri, which is a clothing brand, I know, I hadn't heard of them either, but they are still plugging away at it. And what a great day for Daniel Kvyat, 7th, and potentially, he says, his best qualifying EVs in Formula One. He's pretty much, I think he's got to be my star of qualifying apart from Max Verstappen, but said it was absolutely brilliant. It was initially good stuff from Pierre Gasly. He beat Ocon by a tenth of a second to get into Q3, whereas Ocon was out in Q2, of course, we've just said, but struggled with traction after that. And ended up 0.3 of a second behind Daniel Kvyat. So difficult that was. That was not good, said Gasly's engineer to him. Gasly said, yes, it was very difficult. Particularly, they had problems getting through turn 7 cleanly. They lost a fair bit of time through there. But another strong session for Daniel Kvyat. It's possibly too late because, as he seemed to hint to Simon and after the race, after the qualifying session on the stage, that it's already been decided that Yuki Tsunoda, the Japanese driver, is going to drive this car with its Honda engine next year. But Kvyat has confidence in his manager, Nicholas Todd, to find him something good, if not for next year in some other series, then for something for 2022. So if I was managed by Nicholas Todd, I think I'd probably have that confidence as well. Something Mexican is going on. Something Mexican is afoot with a flag at the back of Sergio Perez's garage, and it was a sort of nothing qualifying for Checo Perez because he's got to take an engine penalty. So it's a bit of a non-event, really. He did get into Q2 just to show that he could, but then didn't really finalise a lap after that. But you can see they are still riding high on Totsumosh from the Bahrain 2, the Sakir Grand Prix, which of course they won down here at Racing Point, and still congratulations to them. It's the gift that keeps on giving. They're all still very happy about it. Well, they were third as well at the same time. So they aced it, and they just come here all, spring with their step. They just need to seal P3 in the Constructors. They've already got a 10-point lead. But if they can just seal that tomorrow, that will be job done for the year. They'll be very happy. Yes, Checo has to start at the back of the grid, which isn't great for that, but Lance Stroll is 8th. A decent lap to go through to Q3 for Lance Stroll, then P8. A good job, well driven, they said. He was just beat by Charles Leclerc by 200ths. He only just beat Charles Leclerc by 200ths of a second, did Lance Stroll. But it's not so bad for him, I guess, going through into tomorrow. Yeah, I thought it was interesting, didn't you, that Checo Perez did a Gasly on the podium. Wanted to have that little bit of time for himself. Just take a pause on that Sakir podium, just take the moment in. And if you're wondering whether he ever got that message through to his manager and right-hand man, Luis Aguirre, that whether to check that Checo Jr., his son, was watching the TV at the moment of his dad's triumph. He didn't, because Luis's headphones came off, but he didn't need to worry about it because Carola, his partner, had already made sure that Checo Jr., Sergio Jr., was already watching the TV to see his dad win at last in Formula One. So that was a sweet story. Matt Bishop, my old mucker from W Series, and ex-McLaren head of communications, is coming back to Formula One. So W Series loss will be Aston Martin F1's gain. He is coming back to be the head of communications and the top comms man, I think they call it in the PR biz, comms, at Aston Martin Racing. So congratulations to Matt, and congratulations to Racing Point, or rather Aston Martin, because they've got a top man in top of the PR front in that team to work with their existing top team there. Right, Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen were pretty disappointed, Kimi Räikkönen especially, because that's 9-8 that Kimi, the Kimster, has been out-qualified by Antonio Giovinazzi this year, which he won't like because, well, he's renowned as being a quick driver, Kimi Räikkönen, and he's been out-qualified by Antonio Giovinazzi over the balance of a season, which might irk Kimi, but then known Kimi, it might not. I messed it up again, and he was out in Q1, that was why. And of course, knowing Kimi, you can bet that he didn't use the word messed, he used a different word, which I think you can imagine, but he said, I do it up. And he was out in Q1. Giovinazzi left it late. He just did one run at the end of Q1, but he got through fairly easily, beating Kimi Räikkönen by half a second. So it's Kimi Räikkönen 16th, Antonio Giovinazzi 14th, although they, I think, will move up with the penalties for Checo Perez. Well, at least Kimi Räikkönen will. He'll move up to 15th. Right, Haas and Kevin Magnussen. He's also starting at the back of the grid with a engine penalty like Sergio Perez. He's 17th, and although he's not, he's starting at the back of the grid, if you see what I mean, but he was 17th in qualifying, and Pietro Fittipaldi 19th. Bit disappointed was Kevin Magnussen, 3/10 ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi, his teammate, but not out of Q1. Pietro Fittipaldi couldn't believe he couldn't improve on the last lap because he had the spinning Nicholas Latifi in front of him and so had to slow down. And that's very frustrating from Pietro Fittipaldi, because he really hasn't put a foot wrong in the couple of races now that he's done, or a couple of race weekends, I should say, that he's done. He's done pretty well so far, you've got to say. But he's only 19th on the grid. Actually, that'll move up. 18th, see what I mean. Kevin Magnussen, he said he's going to miss all the guys in the team. There is his car, number 20, just on the right-hand side of the garage. And he might not miss Formula One because, you know, he hasn't. It's been a bit of a trudge, really, hasn't it? I mean, he's been the Viking warrior and everything and put up a good fight, but it's been a bit of a trudge in this team the last few years. He said he is going to miss the people in the team. He's not going to miss not winning, because he's going to IMSA, Sports Cars in America, to drive for Chip Ganassi, and thinks that he can start winning races again then, which will be good for him. But it's sad to see everybody go, as this is his last race with the team. Now, I met Mick Schumacher on Thursday. We did that interview, and he's a nice kid, isn't he? Lovely kid. How he's going to work with this team, sort of with lots of, he called it a British team, of course it's not, it's an American team, but it's a British populated or personnel team, if you know what I mean, and that's different from the Prema team that he's leaving. But his feet are well and truly on the ground, Mick, and I think he's going to do very well there next year. It might take him a bit of time to get going, especially he's got a different car for 2021 and another car for 2022. But he's a good kid, Mick Schumacher. Not like his dad. He's not explosively quick like his dad. He's a bit more like his mum. I mean, I don't know how his mum drives, but you see what I mean. As a person, he's more like his mum, I'm told. But he's got a lot of talent, as of course he would, having just won the Formula 2 championship. So well done to him. And what's the latest on Nikita Mazepin, his teammate for next year? Well, the latest from Haas is that, look, I asked about Haas. I said, look, what's going on? And they say, look, it's gone global, okay? So it's happened. It's out there. Stuff that happens on the internet, you can never take it back. It is out there. But they say that you can be sure that the rehabilitation process has already begun with Nikita Mazepin within Haas F1. If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, it's not a pretty sight. Go on the internet and you can find out exactly what happened. Nikita has, of course, apologized. He says he has to set himself higher standards in Formula One and life. There's no doubt he needs to learn from it. He's had a kicking, he's had a public kicking, there's no doubt about that. Yes, he's brought it on himself, but he's not going to drive for Haas F1 next year. So, he hopefully will be learning from this. Haas F1 are going to help him learn from this, and he can change his ways going into the rest of his Formula One career, because as he admitted himself, I've got his statement here somewhere, that you just can't do this in any kind of life, never mind in Formula One. I'd like to apologise for my recent actions, both in terms of my own inappropriate behaviour and the fact, this is Mazepin talking, and the fact that it was posted on social media. I'm sorry for the offence I've rightly caused and to the embarrassment I brought to Haas F1 team. I have to hold myself to a higher standard as a Formula One driver, and I acknowledge I've let myself and many people down. I promise I will learn from this. So yeah, that's the Mazepin situation going into the winter. Right, where was I? I was at Williams finally, and it's Mr. Saturday, really. What can you see from that here? Mr. Saturday keeping up his Williams record. Even though the tyres were nowhere, said George Russell, and I really struggled, he still managed to be 18th on the grid, although that will move forward with the two engine penalties. See what I mean? And Nicholas Latifi was only 20th. Nicholas Latifi spun at the last corner. He had cold tyres. He apologised to the team. He said, I'm really sorry, guys. That was my mistake. But Nicholas Latifi trailed George Russell, his teammate, by 0.4 of a second. Russell is keeping his head down at Williams. Yes, it's frustrating, I guess, as anyone you can imagine it would be. Don't they look nice, those cars, in those FIA bags that they have to be put in? If you see at the front, there's a little yellow seal, and that's a seal that you can tell if it's been tampered. A tamper-proof seal, that's what I was trying to say. So these are the Parc Fermé bags that each car is bagged up in. And so they're put to rest there. They can tell if anyone's crept in. The FIA can tell if anyone's crept in the night and, put a turbo on, or another turbo on, I should say, or change the wing angle or something like that, and make sure that the mechanics can then, like this chap, have a nice jog around the circuit and have a bit of time off as they go. Hello, boys. as they go off and have a little bit of time having worked very, very hard. It's all right, if you're jogging, you don't need the mask. Oh, you put it on, right, it's okay. And they get a bit of time off on Saturday night, Sunday morning. But they all deserve it, having worked extremely hard over the season. But yes, it's 18th and 20th in qualifying for Williams. And the final garage is the R25 of Fernando Alonso from 2005 with a V10 engine. So tune in to our programme from 11:30. We've got lots of good stuff. We've got Martin and Fernando on the R25. We've got part 2 of the OMG, what is Lewis Hamilton trying to drive a ride Valentino's Yamaha, and is he going to fall off it? Documentary tomorrow, of course, from that was from last year, the swap. That was pre-COVID. If you're wondering why they're all not distanced and hugging each other with not masks, of course, that was around this time last year, pre-COVID. But it's a good piece anyway. So yeah, join us for that. And as the race control, the Royal Tower here says, thanks the healthcare workers of the UAE. You are the pride of the UAE. Thank you, frontline heroes. We will say thank you for watching. And well, let's do it one more time, shall we? Race day, 11:30, Sunday. See you then. Bye-bye.